This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soy Bifa Jackarich. A powerful explosion set a lithium battery factory on fire in South Korea, killing at least 16 people, and a search and rescue operation is ongoing for 5 others who remain missing, local fire officials said. The fire, which has largely been extinguished, ripped through a factory run by battery manufacturer Aricell in Hwaseong, a major industrial cluster about 90 minutes southwest of the capital, Seoul. The blaze began after a series of battery cells exploded inside a warehouse with some 35,000 units, said Kim Jin-young, a local fire official. What had triggered the explosion remains unclear. He added, Yonhap news agency had earlier reported that some 20 bodies had been found inside the plant, but Kim told a televised briefing that 16 people had died and 2 others were suffering from burns and other serious injuries. He said rescuers were inside the factory trying to find the 5 people unaccounted for. Kim Jae-ho, fire and disaster prevention professor at Daejeong University, said the fire had probably spread too quickly for workers to escape. President Yoon Song-yeol was monitoring the situation, his office said, while Interior Minister Lee Sang-min called on the local authorities to take steps to prevent any hazardous chemicals from contaminating the surroundings. Established in 2020, Aricell makes lithium primary batteries for sensors and radio communication devices. It has 48 employees. According to its latest regulatory filing and its LinkedIn profile, calls to Aricell offices were unanswered. The company is not listed on South Korea's stock markets but is majority owned by S-Connect. According to Aricell regulatory filing, S-Connect is registered on the Junior Kosdaq Index and its shares closed down 22.5%. An Israeli airstrike at a medical clinic in Gaza City killed the director of Gaza's ambulance and emergency department, the enclave's health ministry said. While Israel's military said the strike had killed a senior Hamas armed commander, the health ministry said the killing of Hani al-Jafarawi brought the number of medical staff killed by Israeli fire since October 7th to 500. At least 300 others have so far been detained in a statement. The Israeli military said the strike targeted Mohammed Salah, who it said was responsible for developing Hamas weaponry. More than 8 months into the fighting, international mediation backed by the United States has so far failed to bring a ceasefire agreement. Hamas says any agreement must bring an end to the war, while Israel says it will agree only temporary pauses in fighting until Hamas is eradicated. In Rafah, near the border with Egypt, Israeli forces, which took control of the eastern, southern and central parts of the city, pursued their raid into the western and northern areas, said residents. Describing heavy fighting, Israel denies targeting civilians and blames Hamas for provoking civilian casualties by fighting among them, which Hamas denies. The Israeli military said forces continued intelligence-based targeted operations in Rafah, locating weapons and rocket launchers and killing militants who pose threats to them. In the north of the enclave, where Israel had said its forces completed operations months ago, residents said tanks had pushed back into Gaza City's Zeton suburb and were pounding several areas there. European Union antitrust regulators charged that Apple breached the bloc's tech rules, a charge that could result in a hefty fine for the iPhone maker, which also faces another investigation into new fees imposed on app developers. The European Commission, which is also the EU's antitrust and technology regulator, said it had sent its preliminary findings to Apple following an investigation launched in March. The charge against Apple is the first by the Commission under its Landmark Digital Market Act, which seeks to rein in the power of big tech and ensure a level playing field for smaller rivals. It has until March next year to issue a final decision. DMA violations could result in a fine of as much as 10% of a company's global annual turnover. EU antitrust chief Margrethe Vestager cited issues with Apple's new terms, saying that they fell short of complying with the DMA. Apple can avoid a fine if it can address the concerns by modifying its business terms. She said it was up to Apple to decide how to comply with the DMA and not for her to tell the company what to do. Apple said it had made a number of changes in the past several months to comply with the DMA after getting feedback from app developers and the Commission. The Commission said on the most of the business terms, Apple allows storing only through links out, meaning that app developers can include a link in their app that redirects the customer to a web page where the customer can conclude a contract. It also criticized the fees charged by Apple for facilitating via the App Store the initial acquisition of a new customer by developers, saying they went beyond what was strictly necessary for such remuneration. Australia will water down a planned world-first ban on vaping after opposition from the Greens party led the government to agree to amend a bill that would have restricted vapes to those with a doctor prescription. The agreement between the ruling centre-left Labour Party and the Greens will see legislation pass later this week and restricts the sale of vapes to pharmacies and remove them from retail shelves, where they have fueled a boom in youth vaping. However, the bill stops short of the government's initial ambition to limit sales only to those with a doctor's prescription, which would have been a world first. The amended bill will come into effect on 1st July under the compromise deal first reported by the Sydney Morning Herald. Vapes will move behind the counter in October and customers will need to have a conversation with the pharmacist before making a purchase. Under 18s will need a prescription. Health Minister Mark Butler said in a statement that the government welcomed constructive engagement with the crossbench and secured the support of the Greens for our world-leaving vaping laws. The Labour Party does not have a majority in the upper house and must negotiate with other parties and independent senators to pass legislation. In a statement, the Greens said they opposed blanket prohibitions and also wanted to remove financial barriers to those seeking to quit smoking, a reference to the cost of visiting a doctor for a prescription. Already home to some of the strongest anti-smoking laws in the world, Australia banned the import of most vapes earlier this year and limited the number of flavors that can be sold. About 22% of Australians aged 18 to 24 have used an e-cigarette or vaping device at least once, data last year showed. President Joe Biden's campaign on Monday will use the second anniversary of a Supreme Court decision overturning abortion rights to spotlight an issue it believes can help defeat Donald Trump in this year's election. Biden's team held a series of abortion rights events over the weekend, and both Vice President Kamala Harris and First Lady Jill Biden will speak at events on Monday, hoping to mobilize volunteers and voters around protecting the patchwork remains of abortion access in the country. Donald Trump is the sole person responsible for this nightmare, Biden said in a statement. He said the reversal 2 years ago of the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling of 1973, which gave constitutional protection to abortion rights, has been devastating. In states across the country, Trump's allies have enacted extreme and dangerous abortion bans, many with no exception for rape or incest, that are putting women's life at risk and threatening doctors with jail time, Biden said. Trump appointed 3 conservative Supreme Court justices during his 2017 to 2021 presidency, forcing a change in the court's balance that led to the abortion ruling in 2022. The unpopularity of the decision, even in some conservative states, made it a political liability for Republicans during mid-term elections in 2022 and also this year as Biden and Trump again face off in the presidential race. Biden's team believes the issue of abortion rights could swing the tides November 5th election his way. Trump said in April that abortion laws should be set by individual U.S. states, stepping away from a national abortion ban that anti-abortion groups and some parts of his Republican Party have pushed for. Trump addressed a crowd of evangelical voters at the Faith and Freedom Coalition in Washington, D.C. We have also achieved that the pro-life movement fought to get for 49 years, and we have gotten abortion out of the federal government and back to the states, he said. Some Republican lawmakers have introduced a resolution in the U.S. Congress celebrating the 2022 ruling, although it is unlikely to be voted on in a Senate controlled by Democrats. Since the 2022 ruling, more than 20 Republican-led states have imposed restrictions. Abortion access is now almost non-existent in southern states, forcing tens of thousands of women to cross state lines for abortions and a rise in medication abortion. That is the size of top Accolade Global News Updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Monday.